I recently went to an amusement park with my kids, and as much as I enjoyed spending time with them, it wasn't really my kind of fun. I was a bit out of my comfort zone. Being a highly sensitive person, my idea of fun is more simple, more gentle, more quiet. And in this video I will share my reasons why I chose a slow life as a highly sensitive person. And at the end of this video I will share a few coping tricks on how to deal with being highly sensitive. Things that have worked for me, and maybe they will work for you too. Hi, my name is Jana. Welcome back to my channel, where I talk about slow living and my life in the Finnish countryside. HSP, or being a highly sensitive person, it's not a medical condition. There's not a diagnosis for it. It's more like a personality trait. In fact, it's a spectrum where some people don't feel that they are sensitive at all, and at the other end of the spectrum are those who are the most sensitive, and the majority of people fall somewhere in between. It simply means that people who identify with this classification feel that their central nervous system is a bit more sensitive than what the majority of people have. In everyday life, it can lead to challenges with things that other people might find completely normal. But on the other hand, it can also be an asset. Sensitive people are often also creative, and they have a very rich emotional life. My aim here is not to give you an extensive overview of what being highly sensitive means. I'm merely sharing my own personal experiences in the hopes of finding other people who have experienced something similar so that we can support each other. As an HSP, I need a lot of downtime. When I do things that other people might find completely normal, I often get overwhelmed. I need to process all the stimuli, all the emotions that the experience has brought up. But that doesn't mean that I can't do everything that I want to. I just need to plan accordingly. In fact, I would say that for me it's been very important not to start avoiding things. Because if you avoid things, you feel like you can't do them at all, then you just start this negative cycle and you might even get more and more sensitive. Besides, you will miss out. I definitely wanted to be a part of my kids' day at the amusement park. There was a time in my life when I would ignore this need of mine to reflect on things, to let things settle, and that would lead to problems. I would get cranky, I had sleep issues, I wasn't feeling well. Sometimes I would just feel so overwhelmed that I would lie in a dark room with my curtains down, wearing my earplugs, because I felt I'd had a complete sensory overload. I felt like my hard drive needed to be reset. Nowadays I try to be a bit more proactive so that I don't get that overwhelmed anymore. My emotional life can be intense. When I'm happy, I feel extremely joyful. When I'm having a bad day, it can feel like it's the end of the world. Or at least that's how it used to be for me. Now I have learned tools and tricks how to flatten the curve. I have learned not to take my emotions so seriously anymore. They're just feelings, and having a feeling doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. It's been essential to notice and recognize that I have this tendency to be a bit melodramatic when it comes to my emotional life, so that I know in advance when to pull out my mindfulness tools, when to use them, how to use them. But it's also crucial that you give yourself time to use those tools. If you have decided to meditate every day, you need to reserve that 15 or 20 minutes a day for doing that. And that's one of the reasons why I chose slow living. I want to have a life where I have that flexibility to use those tools whenever I need them, so that I'm not so busy that every minute of my day is planned ahead. By the way, having an intense emotional life is not just a bad thing. It means I empathize with other people, I am creative, I get easily excited about new ideas. So it can be a really positive thing as well, as long as you just know how to deal with it. I absorb other people's feelings. When I walk into a room, I can sense almost immediately if something's wrong, if there's a conflict, what the vibe of the room is. That can be a gift, but it can also be overwhelming if I'm not careful. If somebody else is unhappy, it's so easy for me to absorb their feeling so that it becomes my feeling too. But it doesn't have to be that way. I can learn techniques on how to empathize with the other person, but not drowning myself into that same feeling. After all, it's not my responsibility. This tendency can lead to overthinking. What was the other person thinking when they said what they said? Don't they like me? Did I do something wrong? Looping about these things, I believe it's very typical for highly sensitive people. But you can stop the cycle. You don't need to give in to this tendency to overthink. You can learn how to not give too much space for rumination, how to set mental boundaries. You can learn how to feel grounded in any situation. So here are my practical tips on how to deal with all of this. Not avoiding, but adjusting. For example, if we travel, we often book a whole apartment instead of a hotel room. That way we have more space, more privacy. I find that some of my family members have the same kind of traits that I do. And I've noticed that after a busy day, walking in the town or going to see attractions or whatever it is, it helps if we have more space and more privacy so that we can each spend a bit of time alone, focusing on what you enjoy. In my example of the amusement park, I just kept thinking about how I love to see my kids enjoying it. It didn't really matter that it wasn't my kind of fun. I was just happy to give them that experience. And by focusing on it, I really had a good day, even though all the rides and all the hustle and bustle wasn't really my kind of thing. Setting a routine. I like to come home early so that I have a few hours to reset before going to bed. If I'm going to a concert or a movie or some other cultural experience, I always prefer a matinee instead of a later performance. I'm perfectly happy to be a homebody, learning to set boundaries and to say no. You don't always have to participate in every event that you're invited to. It's perfectly okay to sometimes say no. I personally don't like sleepovers. If I'm invited to a summer cottage to stay overnight, I often decide to drive home at night. I just like my privacy and my solitude so much, even though I enjoy spending time with other people as well. And I have stopped feeling guilty about it. You don't owe it to anybody to please them more than you owe it to yourself to make yourself comfortable, accepting yourself as you are. There's nothing wrong with you if you're anything like me, if you're sensitive like I am. You were just born this way, and there's nothing you can do to change it. You can respect other people, you can try to be flexible, but you also need to respect your own boundaries. If you communicate with others clearly where your boundaries are, and you do it in a friendly way, I don't see any reason for you to feel guilty about putting yourself first sometimes, about respecting yourself and being proud of who you are. After all, there's no such thing as being normal. We are all individuals, and like I said at the beginning of this video, it's a spectrum, and the people who are on the other end of the spectrum of sensitivity, they might not understand you. But then again, it's your life, and you don't need to let others dictate what you do and what kind of choices you make. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts about this. Do you consider being a highly sensitive person? When did you first realize that you were that way? How did you feel when you heard about this term in the first place? And what kind of tools do you use to navigate in this life that's often busy and loud? Thank you for watching. Remember to take care of yourself. See you in the next video. Bye bye.